Hey, what's up, people? Kevin Winters coming to you from that car ride home. I want to talk to you today about being devoted. I want to talk to you about being devoted. Um, Sometimes I get emails from people and I get instant messages from people who show a level of admiration for my relationship with God. They like the way God and I hang out. And sometimes they want me to work with them more directly, like in a mentoring situation, to help them achieve that same level of relationship. And, you know, even though the relationship I have with God seems complex, it really is very simple. And that's why I want to talk to you about being devoted, because some of us have what we call devotional time, right? We have devotional time. Devotional time is that time that we have set up or set aside where we're going to hang out with God, where we're going to read our Bible, where we're going to pray. And so that's called devotional time. And a lot of people have a devotional time. I have never had a devotional time. Now, I don't want anybody to come to the conclusion that I'm saying devotional time is not good, because I'm not saying that devotional time is not good. Instead, what I'm trying to encourage you to do is to not just have a devotional time, but to give God all of your time, because devotional time is generally just a portion of your day that you dedicated to God. It's the first 10 minutes. Sometimes it's an hour. The real deep ones will give God 2 hours. But why does God only get 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 hours? Why does he only get that much time? So I've never had a devotional time. I tried, like so many people, I tried to have a devotional time with God, and he rejected that idea. So I went out of my way, because at this point, it was many years ago, and at that point, I had been hanging out with God and enjoying his presence so much that I thought to myself, I'm going to give God a certain portion of my day, and I'm going to put him on my schedule, and I'm going to meet with him every time at the same time, every day at the same time, because I want him to know that I'm serious. Now, I was single at the time, and I had no responsibility. Single, no kids, wasn't dating anybody. So for me, that was major. I mean, because it meant I was going to spend 2, 3, 4 hours with God, reading, praying, listening to his voice. So I thought in my mind that God would be grateful, and this would be a wonderful opportunity, and he would really be, he would appreciate it. So I did just that. I set up my little time, and I came to show up at that time when I thought that, I set aside my little time. Came every day, no presence of God, no word from God, no visions, no nothing. Nothing. So after a while, I became a bit discouraged, because I was trying to understand, why would God not show up to this time that, after I went through all the effort of showing up and setting aside, not 10 minutes or 5 minutes, a couple of hours of my day just to hang out with him, and he wouldn't even show up. He had stood me up. And I was a bit discouraged, so I asked him, what's the deal? Why aren't you showing up? Why isn't your presence manifesting? Why aren't you showing up? You have to understand, I hang out with God. I hang out in the Shekinah glory. That's what I experienced, and that's what I was used to. And so I couldn't understand why, and I asked him. And so he finally spoke to me, and he still didn't speak to me during the time when I had set aside to meet with him. He spoke to me, And he said, no, come when I call you. And I was like, but I'm trying to set up a certain time. And then he said this to me, and this forever shaped the way I hang out with God. He said, Kevin, how would you like it if I put your love on a schedule? How would you like it if I was only available to answer your prayers at a certain time of the day? He said, just come when I call. And so that's what I have been doing these many years. When he calls, I come. Sometimes he calls in the middle of the night. A lot of times he like to call in the middle of the night. Sometimes he calls while I'm about to eat dinner. Sometimes he calls when I'm sitting on the couch. Sometimes he calls, and you might be wondering to yourself, well, that's odd, and what benefit does that hold? Well, for starters, one of the reasons God didn't want me to do my devotional time the way most people do devotional time is because most people have an idea of devotional time as this time when they're going to meet with God, and then they're going to get up off the floor, and they won't meet with God again until the time comes around again. So usually that's the morning for some people, or sometimes it's the evening before they go to bed. So at the most, God is going to get about 2 portions of the day when he gets to spend time with these people. And it affects us even in the way that we hear his voice, because we only expect to hear from God when we get to our prayer closet. We only expect to hear from God when we're in our devotional time. So God didn't want me to train myself to hear him that way. And so that's why I can hear from God at any point of the day, at any hour, in the middle of the night, on my lunch hour, walking through the mall, talking to a person. I can hear from God because I have not given him a segment of time. I've given him all of my time. So I don't have a devotional time. All of my time is devoted to him. And so that's why he can interrupt me at any point in the day. And he does. And speak to me about any matter of issues or challenges or other people or things that he's going to do. It's because there is no time in my day that is restricted. No part of my day is off limits to him. All of my time belongs to him. And so that's why I want to talk to you about the devotion. Being devoted. Being devoted. Because the other thing that I have witnessed from a lot of people is your holiest time of the day is when you spend in your devotional time. That's when you act right. That's when you do right. That's when you talk right. That's when you live right. Because you're not aware of God outside of your devotional time. And you haven't learned how to walk with him and talk with him. And so your lifestyle is governed by that. Now, I'm probably going to get in trouble with what I'm about to say. I also don't have accountability partners. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm not accountable to anybody. It doesn't mean that I don't talk to people and people don't know what's going on in my life. But I don't have somebody that has to tell me or remind me to read. I don't have somebody that has to remind me to pray. Those are not things that I have to be reminded to do. Nobody has to remind me to spend time with God because, again, I have a lifestyle where I live before God presently. And I can go into the conscious awareness of that presence at any point of the day at my choosing. I can decide I want to be in the presence of God and experience a tangible presence of God. And it's so much so that when I say the words, let's pray, the presence of God just shows up. It just manifests. And y'all, that doesn't come because of me doing anything special. That doesn't come because of somebody reminding me to pray or reminding me to spend time with God. It comes because I am devoted. to him. I am devoted to him. So all of my time is his, which means since I have to come when he calls, I'm always aware that at any moment he may call. So he always has my attention. Always has my attention. And that's why I want to encourage you to not leave your devotional time, because devotional times are good. It's good to have a time, and it is biblical. David said, I will rise early in the morning and talk to you. Moses met with God every day at the Tent of Tabernacle. So there's nothing wrong with having a meeting place or a devotional time. But how you do devotional time, I just want you to, I want to challenge you to do it differently. So how do I handle my day? If I don't get up and have a certain time every day that I meet with God, well, how do I do it? I get up talking to God. I go to bed talking to God. When I get up, hey, Lord, I just started talking. I might start talking about somebody who is having a challenge or an issue. I might start talking about any number of things. And sometimes I might get up and write down a dream that he gave me, and then sit on the side of the bed and just wait to see if there's anything that he reports back to me after I, so I just hang out. That starts my day, and it doesn't end. I go, as I'm putting on my shoes, I'm listening for God. When I'm riding in my car, I don't even listen to the radio no more. I can't even tell you what the gospel songs are today, because I hang out in the car with God and I talk to him on the way, listen for his voice. When I'm at my desk, I include him in my work assignments. When I go home, I include him in things that are happening in my marriage and happening with my children. I mean, he just has complete access. So all of my time is devoted to God. Number two, or I should say, the other thing I want to let you know is that God is like any other person. So some of y'all in your devotional times, you have a routine. I don't have a devotional time. So I don't have a routine, because I'm learning how to walk. I'm walking with God and continuing every day to learn how to walk with God. Sometimes I read, sometimes we sing, sometimes I listen, sometimes I pray. It just depends. But I don't have any routine, because I'm in a relationship with a person. It's kind of like if you and your wife go to the same restaurant every Friday. After a while, I don't care how much you like the food, it gets boring. It just becomes something you do just because. The nuance of it wears off, the novelty wears off, because you do it all the time, and it's just nothing to it. You do it because you're supposed to. But when you allow the relationship to develop from a genuine place, and you just walk with God. Today I'm going to read. I don't read every day. That might shock people. But I am always engaged with him every day. All day. I'm talking to him all day. Now, he doesn't always talk back to me all day. Some days I have really bad days when I can't even hear clearly. And if you get my book, You Can Hear the Voice of God Clearly, I got 4 things that I talk about. And sometimes I'm affected by one of those 4 things that keeps me from hearing clearly. And other times, it's just a day of nonstop back and forth talking with God. So the key to my relationship is that it's a relationship. That is the key. If you want to know the secret to my relationship, it is a relationship. That's how I view it, as a relationship. When I get upset, I express that to God. When I'm hungry, I talk about even my food. I'm just always talking to God. I'm always. There's no moment in my life during my 20 plus years when I can say I ever felt like I was alone. Even when he was silent for long periods of time, I never felt alone. Never. I don't even identify with people who talk about that experience. That they get to some deep experience in life and they just felt like God had abandoned them. I've never felt that. Because I'm in a relationship with somebody who said, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. So he ain't going nowhere. And I obviously ain't going nowhere. So I've never felt that. And that is the secret. If you want to know how to walk with God, you have to devote yourself to him. Then he will talk to you. And let me bring up something else while I'm on this issue. A lot of people want to understand how to operate in the gifts. A lot of people. Well, one of the keys to operating in the gifts is having a relationship with God. I see people who struggle with some of these various aspects, and your struggle is not with the gifts. Your struggle is not that you want to go deeper in some particular gift. Your struggle is you're not going deeper in your relationship. So the word of knowledge is really hard to you because you can't get a word of knowledge for yourself. Being able to get a word of wisdom is challenging for you because you can't get one for yourself. Being able to discern spirits in the lives of other people is hard because you can't discern them in your own life or the lives of the people around you. So the key is walking with God. You know, I have relationship goals, and in my books, I encourage you to have relationship goals. The Bible is full of heroes. You got Enoch, who walked with God. David, who God called the man after his own heart. Abraham, who God visited in a tent with 2 other angels and sat down and ate with him. Moses, who saw God face to face. These are my relationship goals. Like, those are my literal goals. To have God stand before me in a way that everybody can see, like Moses, face to face. Not that in a vision stuff, that everybody has that. To have God show up and eat with me like he did with Abraham. To walk with him like Enoch until God decided, I don't want to share him with anybody anymore. To be able to have the kind of commitment that David had, whereby God said, this is a man after my own heart. And you have to understand that when God says this is a man after my own heart, he's not talking about a man that's praising him. He's making that comparison. He's making that statement as a comparison to Saul, whom he just dethroned, because Saul was a man after the people's heart. But David was a man after God's heart. He wanted to know how to satisfy God's heart. And he always asks, what am I supposed to do next? What do you want me to do? What is your will? I can't kill Saul because that's not going to make God happy. He only concerned. These are my people that I look up to. These are my relationship goals with God. And so I press into it. I push into it. Sometimes I get discouraged because I don't feel like I'm getting as close as I want to get. And I tell him every day he can have the ministry stuff because I'm not here for the ministry stuff. The ministry stuff is an outgrowth of my relationship. I want him more than I want the relationship. I want the ministry. But the thing about having a relationship with him is you get close to him, you realize he really loves the people he died for. And there's no way that you can be in relationship with him and not start caring about what he cares about. You can't hear him talking about his people and what he wants for his people and not care and not do nothing. So ministry should be an outgrowth of that. And when you look through the book of Acts, what you do not see is the distinction of the gifts. You know, when you search through the scriptures, you have to search for what looks like a prophecy or a word of knowledge or a word of wisdom or discerning of spirits or working of miracles. You can't tell the difference. You can't tell the difference because all you see is people who are walking with God, and God talks to them and not in phrases. He talks to them in full sentences. Peter, there are some guys downstairs. Go with them, asking nothing. Philip, go near and overtake that chariot. You see people who walk with God, who talk with God, who are developing a relationship with God, and they are devoted to him, and they do whatever he asks them to do and whatever he requires them to do because they're devoted. They're not trying to go to any special time. They're going to pray because they know they need to pray. They're going to pray when they know they're in trouble. They're going to pray because they're trying to connect with God, and they are expecting him to meet them wherever they are. They have a devotion to him that allows them to walk with him to such a degree that you don't see what we see today. Today, you see people operating in gifts. They operate after they preach. They operate in various capacities, and you can't even really tell if they're walking with God or not. But when you look in the Bible, people had a relationship with God. It was a relationship. And from that relationship, they were able to do miracles. From that relationship, they were able to know things about people. From that relationship, you notice, when God wanted to open up the Gentile world, he spoke to Peter. It was relational. Peter wasn't on his way to do anything ministerial. He was just going to pray. He was just chilling. He was going to spend time with God. And in his time with God, God decided it's a good time to change his mind and open up the Gentiles to the doctrine of salvation. Relationship. So you look at the lives of these great guys, there's one thing that they held in common. They walked with God and had access to him every single place they went, and that was because they were devoted. So that's what I want to talk to you about on my way home. Welcome to Doing Life on Fire. Let's be devoted. That is the secret to walking with God. That is the secret to hearing his voice. That is the secret to operating in the gifts. It's being committed to him and being devoted to him, not 10 or 5 minutes during the day, but every single moment that you are awake, and even in your sleep, he will visit you.